Keep saying you can murder me too. It's like fucking crazy.
To talk to us about possible repercussions from the
here. Another thing to obviously cover here is the Haaretz report that came out that got first-hand testimony from IDF soldiers, Israeli occupying force soldiers. The Haaretz newspaper published a report, a damning report that confirmed what Palestinian journalists have been saying for fucking months at this point, for the past month, basically. Okay?
Okay, let's go back to...
This is the report. IDF soldiers say they were ordered to fire at unarmed crowds near Gaza food distribution sites despite no threat being present. They used artillery, they used gunshots, and there was reports last week that they might have even used tanks. He said you were going to murder him live, i.e. rip into him for spamming, just so you know. No, I know. He's just crazy. That's why I banned him. Grenades and mortars as well. Here's the summary of it. Here's the breakdown. Haaretz confirms Israeli soldiers ordered to fire on unarmed, starving civilians at 8 sites. A major Haaretz investigation confirms Israeli soldiers in Gaza were ordered to shoot at unarmed Palestinians gathering near food distribution sites, even when they posed no threat. Soldiers described the areas as a killing field, noting there is no enemy and no weapons. Here are some of the most important findings from the report. 1. IDF officers said the killings aren't isolated mistakes, but a part of a pattern dubbed Operation Salted Fish, the Israeli version of red light, green light. We shoot, they run, we shoot again, one soldier said. This is our communication. Red light, green light, like from Squid Games. At least 549 Palestinians have been killed, as I've reported already, and over 4,000 wounded near these aid centers since May 27th, according to Gaza's health ministry. Many were waiting for UN food trucks. Testimonies reveal Israeli commanders instructed troops to open fire on civilians approaching aid sites before they opened or after they closed, using machine guns, mortars, and grenades. Soldiers described systematic live fire, including from tanks. One officer said they fired to signal to the population that this is a combat zone. Soldiers reported casualties every day. Another soldier recalled being told to fire a shell at a crowd to send a message. Israeli soldiers said demolition crews are often present at aid sites and that private contractors are being paid to level homes nearby. One fighter said people are being killed so someone can knock down a house and get paid. IDF officers told Haaretz the army suppresses footage from these sites, believing the Gaza Humanitarian Foundation helps preserve international legitimacy for the war. Israel's military prosecution has ordered the general staff's fact-finding assessment mechanism to investigate the shootings for possible war crimes. They're going to investigate themselves and find no wrongdoing. Netanyahu and Katz, of course, claimed that the Haaretz report, the expose on IDF intentionally shooting Gaza, and said aid centers is a blood libel. Now, of course, as you know, at this point, 20 months into this ethnic cleansing campaign, whenever an Israeli official says something is blood libel, know that it is 100% true. When an Israeli official says something is blood libel, or someone who defends Israel, an Israel defender says something is blood libel, know that it is 100%, without a fucking shred of doubt, absolutely the truth. Okay? It just simply means I can't refute this information, and I choose not to refute this information, and therefore I will just say it's fake, it's a lie, it's not real. I assume you saw this. Oh, we'll do it in a second. We'll get to that in a second. Let's continue.
Our top story now about Israeli soldiers who say they were ordered to shoot people near food distribution centers in Gaza. The Haaretz newspaper reports that some soldiers were told to fire heavy weapons to disperse people. Let's now speak to one of the journalists behind that report. Nir Hassan joins us from West Jerusalem. Nir, welcome to Al Jazeera. Good to have you with us. The headline is chilling. IDF soldiers ordered to shoot deliberately at unarmed Gazans waiting for humanitarian aid. It seems everyone, including ordinary hungry civilians, are deemed to be targets.
Yes, well, we know for the last months or so that there are some very violent incidents around those distribution centers in Gaza, and there were more than 500 casualties around those centers. And now me and my colleagues, Yaniv Kubovic and Bar Peleg, we brought testimonies by soldiers and commanders from the IDF that telling us the policy, the fire policy that that make this happen. What they are telling us is that the IDF is actually communicate the Gazan population by fire, by fired live ammunition.
Of course, Nir, this is not something we don't already know. I mean, our reporters have been reporting this has been going on for a long, long time. But it is surprising to hear it directly, isn't it, from those soldiers?
Yeah. Make no mistake. Make no mistake. This is not new information. And especially if you were in here for the past month, you already knew this, okay? This is simply confirmation coming from Israeli reporting, okay, from Haaretz. Now, Mohammed Shahada says, Haaretz's big expose today is literally word for word what we, Palestinians, have said 20 days ago. Like always, when we say it, it's a conspiracy theory. When Israeli journalists say it, it's groundbreaking, brave, and compelling. Make no mistake, I'm of two different minds on this. On the one hand, obviously, I trust the on-the-ground sources to explain what the conditions look like. Okay? That's precisely the reason why we have been on this coverage for quite a while, for the past 20 days, as a matter of fact, almost a month. But having said that, given the way that the Western world operates on this stuff, given the way that the Western world treats Haaretz's reporting or Israeli reporting with a higher degree of priority, with a higher degree of legitimacy due to the pre-existing Islamophobic attitude that a lot of people unfortunately have, this is still important in moving the needle, because what is on Haaretz today will inevitably make it to Western media maybe a month from now. Okay? That's just how it works. It's also always still good to get additional confirmation from the side that is literally shooting, even though the way that Haaretz works here, if you're wondering, like, how does this get past the military censors, for example, or how does this article get reported on? How does this article even get any sort of reporting being done? If they wanted to stop this, if they wanted to suppress these communications, they would. It's because it serves a secondary purpose. It sets the stage to say this was just simply outside of the normal confines of the operation down the line, if there's any sort of like war crimes investigation conducted once the dust is settled. Okay? It's the same. Mohammed Shahada continues, says, it's the same with apartheid, genocide, starvation, indiscriminate bombing, pogroms. Palestinians always sound the alarm first, only to be ignored, doubted, canceled, and shamed and deplatformed for narrating our stories. It's only when an Israeli says it that this counts. And I Really Hate You BM says, and of course they always use language that makes it sound like it's some breach of protocols rather than a part of an openly genocidal state policy. It of course is a part of the deliberate attempt to starve and mutilate the Palestinian population, for the record. But it still serves a good purpose overall. Okay, Mohammed El-Kurd says, thank God Haaretz confirmed that these were not very credible. What these not very credible Palestinian journalists have been trying to say for the past month, or have been saying for the past month. What would we do without Haaretz? The testimony of Israeli soldiers is somehow more credible and carries more weight than their Palestinian victims is just good old-fashioned racism. You can call it strategy or spin it whichever way you like. It's still racist. This is true, which is why, obviously, I place heavy emphasis on Palestinian voices in the process. Make no mistake. Having said that, however, given that there are unimaginably racist people who still refuse to entertain the reality, okay, Look, he goes, source Islamic funded media, like dipshits like this. Is Haaretz a part of the Islamic funded media structure? Is that what you're saying? This Israeli newspaper that actually confirmed the firsthand testimony of Palestinians that have suffered these insane attacks, these ruthless attacks at the point of aid distribution, that also have been reconfirmed time and time again by numerous international rights organizations, as a matter of fact, that correspond to the testimony of healthcare workers that are working in the Strip, both Palestinian, and if you place a lot more emphasis on the Westerners, white people like Doctors Without Borders, healthcare professionals that say every single time there is any sort of aid distribution, we know that there is going to be bloodshed. Islamic funded state media, you say. This is the reason why it's still important to show Haaretz is reporting on it as well. That's my point. Do you understand? This is a way to basically hammer the truth to people who are maybe in the margins. I mean, even 20 months. One might say it's been 20 months. If someone still doesn't get it, like, fuck them. But that shouldn't discourage you. That should not stop you. That should not discourage you, and it certainly should not stop you from trying to show people the truth, no matter how you can, okay? And when Haaretz actually does this kind of journalism, it does inevitably make its way, not to the bylines, but at least like a buried lead in a fucking New York Times report a couple months later down the line.
Who are on the ground, who've been receiving those instructions and then carrying it out?
Yes, well, I think in the Israeli army, as well as in the Israeli society as well, there are some cracks in the feeling, in the understanding of what's going on.
The way he's describing it is that this is simply a breakdown of operational protocols. It's not true. It is deliberate. It is a deliberate killing field that has been created. But the reason why Haaretz is reporting on this is so that they can turn around and say, oh, it's just once again, a simple breakdown of operational procedures. I'm not even fucking, stop. It was a minor fucking blip. Shut the fuck up, chat. Yes, but I'm going to add something critical here. Yesterday, the New York Times published an atrocious piece that obfuscated and minimized the deliberate Israeli policy of killing Palestinian aid seekers. The way the New York Times sowed doubt in Israeli mentions by quoting the IDF as saying they shoot warning shots. This is meant to leave a gap for continued stated doubt for genocide denialism, where the Palestinians killed by Israelis on purpose or by stray bullets amidst the chaos. Today, Haaretz dropped a report which should, in principle, force an end to the speculation on the intention in the news coverage. IDF soldiers explicitly name that they were ordered to kill Palestinians, and by who? Will it end the speculation on intention? No. Is it racist that Israeli perpetrators of genocide continue to be believed over their Palestinian victims? Of course. That remains one of the greatest crimes from this. Look at this. The lethal risk of seeking food in Gaza. Hundreds of Palestinians have been killed over the past month near aid hubs set up under a new Israel-backed system, according to Gaza health officials. This is not an appropriate way to cover the story. Okay? This is not the truth. It is ridiculous. The lethal risk of seeking food in Gaza, like as though there's a naturally occurring phenomenon that while Palestinians who have been forcibly deprived of food by the Israeli state are desperately seeking out a crumb of aid from said Israeli state that is using the aid delivery mechanism to kill them, is the truth. Ridiculous.
In Gaza. Most of the Israelis, the great majorities of the Israelis and the great majorities of the IDF soldiers as well, still believe that the war in Gaza is just, and the IDF do what it does in Gaza because it's necessary for the security of Israel. However, I think in the last few weeks or months or so, there is some cracks in this understanding, in this in the Israeli discourse, if you like, and there are more and more people who are asking themselves, not only is this war is necessary, but also what is the humanitarian price that the Gazan population is paying for this.
Look at this. Look at these headlines. This is how they've covered the aid distribution scheme that every international aid organization in the United Nations have actually fucking criticized for exactly what this aid distribution scheme looks like. The violent means to a violent end with respect to this aid delivery mechanism, this aid delivery scheme that they've cultivated. If you ask the New York Times, the lethal risk of seeking food in Gaza. I'll never try again. For some Gazans, seeking aid is just too risky. More violence near Gaza aid sites. Friday briefing, the deadly search for food in Gaza. It's always just like someone else. Who knows who's doing it? We will never know who's doing it. Who's doing it? Or Israeli military rejects report that soldiers told to fire at Palestinians waiting for food after repeated deadly incidents. Who gives a fuck what the Israeli military is rejecting, man? What are you talking about? They're fucking genocidal liars. Like, what do you mean? What's crazier about this is, like, every day there is a fresh new hell that we watch, okay, happening in real time. There are moments from the Holocaust that we could point to where the Nazi Germany created a sanitized version of a concentration camp and then brought in their affiliate Red Cross investigators to show the world, to lie that this was actually not a scary concentration camp where people were dying, but the conditions were actually great. It was I think it wasn't a concentration camp, it was a ghetto, right? It was a sanitized ghetto. Okay? We did not have the internet back then. We did not have the internet back then. We do now. The fact that they are still doing this when we know exactly what's happening, when the victims are directly communicating how it's happening with footage from their fucking phones, and the media still goes, well, the Israeli military rejects the report. Like, they run with that as though the Israeli military statements holds any weight here whatsoever is fucking insane.
This war.
Are people, do you think, Nir, widely,
do
you think people in Israel are widely cognizant, are widely aware of this instruction to kill civilians? And indeed, some are being killed by snipers, aren't they? We're continually hearing from doctors here on Al Jazeera treating the wounded who talk of people coming in with headshot wounds or their knees shot out.
Yeah, the story that we just brought today didn't consider snipers. It's actually a practice of, as I said, controlling the crowd by fire. Like, if you want the crowd to run off a place, you shoot them at them, even though you know they're unarmed, and you use fire to move people from one point to another. But the question about what the Israelis knows or do not know about what's going on in Gaza, I think it's a very good question, because the mainstream media in Israel mostly do not deal with what's going on with the Gazan people. They speak about what's going on in Gaza from the IDF side, but not about the humanitarian issues of the war.
Okay, just one final question there. Sorry, I'm sorry to jump in, but we are just running out of time. Very quickly,
Yeah, sure.
Where is this coming from ultimately, this instruction to kill? It must be coming from the very top, isn't it?
Yeah, I guess it's come from pretty top in the Israeli army. But we don't know for sure.
What are the reasons for the shooting according to Israel? I haven't ever heard any reasons to try and justify it. They say they're communicating with large crowds through gunfire. Like that was the official reason, the official unofficial reason. They just say it's a lie. First of all, they've said their official statement on the report that came from Haaretz was that this is an abject lie. This is blood libel. Okay. The soldiers' justification for it is that they're using gunfire to communicate with the crowds. The real reason, the actual reason why they're doing this is because they want to kill as many people as possible. That's it. The sole purpose of all of these operations is to make the strip uninhabitable and expedite the process while still not reaching a certain point of international scrutiny that should have come a long time ago, of course. But expedite the process of ethnic cleansing.
We don't have the name of the officer who decide to use that method to control the people, but it's have to be pretty high in the command channel.
All right, Nir, thanks for joining us here on Al Jazeera. We'll leave it there. There's Nir Hassan from Haaretz speaking to us here on Al Jazeera. Thank you.
Don't miss out. Get the full picture. Subscribe to Al Jazeera for reliable.
Anyway.
Not exclusive.
We're going to get back to the Mamdani stuff now here in the United States of America, where the pathetic Democratic Party is behaving in expected ways. Oh, last thing I wanted to tell you about Israel. The U.S. used up to 20% of its total THAAD interceptor stockpile during the 12-day war at a cost of $800 million, according to Newsweek. Remember when I told you that their interceptor missiles were also like their stock was diminishing? Yeah, there's also the SM-3 and SM-6 stockpile that was depleted by the Navy. But this is just one aspect. The THAAD missiles were sent to Israel after the Operation True Promise 2, when Operation True Promise 2 showed that Israel's own Arrow systems and David Sling and its Tamir interceptors, that is also colloquially known as the Iron Dome, were not capable, alongside the entire Navy and the Jordanian defenses and Saudi defenses and whatnot, at successfully stopping Iranian ballistic missiles from penetrating this air defense system, this complicated, sophisticated air defense system. So they shipped in THAAD missile interceptors. They sent in additional THAAD missile interceptors after Operation True Promise. This time around, even with that, we saw that Iran had simply too large a ballistic missile arsenal, and their tech was far too advanced to successfully intercept. And this is the outcome. After all is said and done, this was but a mere part of the overall expenditure from the American side. Okay? They used an estimated of the total 15 to 20% of its global THAAD missile interceptor stockpile over 12 days, incurring unprecedented costs exceeding $800 million, according to the Bulgarian Military News and Military Watch magazine outlets. Iran launched a major missile barrage They used older models such as the Ghadr and the Emad, the medium-range Khaybar Shikan and the Fatah 1 hypersonic missile, which travels up to Mach 15 and is hard to intercept. The U.S. restocked interceptor missiles for the THAAD system it deployed in Israel in 2024. Amid concerns of the shortage, a single THAAD interceptor costs about $12 to $15 million, according to estimates by multiple defense and news outlets. So if you're wondering where your fucking healthcare is going, that's where it's going, okay? Now let's get back to the country where there is no fucking healthcare, the United States of America, and how the supposedly opposition party is behaving after a primary victory for a person that wants to offer more social safety nets, a person that also thinks that this genocide that I've shown you, that we are participating in and directly involved in, this incredibly costly and incredibly bloody genocide, is unacceptable. Chuck Schumer, as you know, has famously stated that the United Nations is anti-Semitic for considering what Israel is doing to be a genocide. Okay? What is this? Here you go. Yeah, Democrats fighting Trump, Democrats fighting Zoran Mamdani. All right.